All right, guys. If you're out there, welcome to my first live stream ever. We're going to go through some comic book CPR. I'm going to be cleaning some comic books, mostly Silver Age stuff. X-Men is always with my stuff, so I did want to highlight this book here. This is the second edition comic book CPR. This is a great book if you haven't read it. If you're cleaning comic books, if you're going to work on comic books, you definitely want to read this book first. Captain Mike. Uh, it's a really good book. There's a link in the description if you want to buy it. That helps out the channel if you buy through that link. But it's a great book. I highly recommend if you're going to clean comic books or press comic books, get this book. It's really easy to read, easy to go through. So let's go ahead and get through this. We're gonna pull out some books. We're gonna start doing some cleaning. So if you have questions, anyone pops in wants to ask any questions, please feel free. Like I said, there are some descriptions or some links in the descriptions on this stuff I'm using. If you're interested, check that out. Like I said, the links, the affiliate links, definitely help out the channel. Help me keep putting stuff out for you guys. So, as always, anytime you clean a book, first most important thing you need some gloves. So we're gonna go ahead and throw on some gloves. You can see here, this is an X-Men 45. Nice Cyclops Quicksilver cover. This is from the late 60s. I want to say like 65, 66. So always first thing you want to do when you're going to clean a book is just flip through it. Always make sure no coupons missing, no massive stains. So like there's a stain here. You can see. I'm probably not going to do much about that. It's not like a huge bad stain. But if it was, I'd try and do something to it. But yeah, just flip through it. Should be 16 pages in a Silver Age book. So I'm not counting the pages. I know this book has all the pages, but again, we're looking for missing coupons or big tears inside. See if there's anything we need to do with the interior. I don't like to work on interior books unless it's absolutely necessary, just because the paper's a little more fragile than the cover. So it looks like this one's pretty good. I'm not really seeing any issues. Great, spectacular Spider-Man ad there on the back. So what we are going to do, though, is we're going to go through the cleaning process. Like I said, you always look for any grime or dirt or something that's going to be a problem. So one thing I see on this that I need to be careful of is right here. There's a little tear. You can see it. I just want to be careful when I'm erasing and using the eraser around that I don't tear it and make it worse. There's a couple little stains on there. I don't know how well they show up on the camera, but not much I can do about that. With this technique, there are other techniques. If you check out, like I said, the Captain Mike books, there's a whitening book that is really good for like removing stains. And then again, I'm gonna look at the cover. I don't see anything too bad on the cover. So we're gonna go ahead and clean it. So this is the first thing I'm going to use here. This is just a eraser on one of my kids' pens. Looks like a Splendid Star pen. So it's got some dirt on the end of it. I want to get that dirt off. You can just rub that against anything to really get that out. And that's from just a previous book that I cleaned. So you just want that off there so you're not driving that into the book as you're going. And then you're just going to start lightly rubbing. You're not missing like if you messed up with a pencil in school. You're just going to lightly rub this across there. Try and get out any of the dirt. So I've always had really good results with pressing books, especially when there's a lot of white like this. White is definitely the color that's easiest to clean. You don't want to do this erasing on any of the color, because you'll just end up rubbing the color off, and that's not good. So, we're just going nice and easy through here. Again, this bigger eraser is really easy to use on these bigger spots like that. When we get down to some of the smaller spots, we'll be a little more careful. We'll use a little bit different eraser. And then this is just one of my kids' like cheap like makeup brushes. It's just good for getting the little crumbs of eraser off. So see this here, I'm going to use this one now. This is also, there's a link to this down in the description. This thing is fantastic. This is probably my favorite clean tool. It's the best tool I've bought, the Mono Zero. It's got interchangeable erasers that once they run out, you just put in a new one. And they're really helpful, especially when you get into like some of the smaller areas. Again, so something else I didn't talk about is my absorbing pad. This is really good also. Just rub your eraser across it. Get a little chunks of dirt and grime off the eraser tip so you're not rubbing them back into the book. And then we're just going to keep going. So again, I'm not using hardly any pressure at all. You don't want to dig into this and like tear up the paper or cause erasure marks. You want to be real careful. Make sure you're not hitting any of the green. I'm just rubbing all that dirt out of the way. This isn't a high grade book. This is probably like a 5.5, 5.0. But it's going to present a lot better when we're done. That's kind of the goal. I'm not going to CGC this book or anything. I just want it to look nicer for my collection. It's always important to remember where you've been. You don't want to keep going over the same areas over and over, but you also don't want to miss any areas. So a lot of people will start up in the corner and then just kind of work their way down and do like zones. I just kind of go all over just because I've done this, quite a few times. I kind of know what I'm doing. I don't ever miss any areas. So again, I'm being real careful around this. You see this little black line here? I'm being real careful, make sure to not erase any of that. You're not going to like erase the line, but there will be eraser marks on it, and that doesn't look good. It kind of makes the ink blurry looking. I mean, it's not the most exciting video, but again, I'm going to do this today. I figured I might as well stream it. Hope everybody's having a good Easter. My kids and wife are out of town, so it's just me and the dogs and the cats today. So figured I'd try this live streaming out, see how it went. I did join a show last night. That was a really good time, and thought, you know what, I can do that. I can run a stream. Yeah, there's a lot of dirt like really embedded in here, and I'm sure you can't see that real well on the camera, but it's real important you don't just, don't dig into it. It's just really bad for the paper. It's really bad for the book in general, and you easily can mess up and get into the color part of it and cause blur, that muddy black or red. You want to be careful in these areas too. Don't use an eraser that's too big. The kind of the two I like for smaller areas are this and this. And again, you can see the top of that. I've like shaved the top of that to kind of give it a little bit of a point. But overall, it's just a bigger eraser. Gives me a little bit more surface coverage, and then this eraser tip. These are really nice too. And again, even that one I've shaved down. You probably can't tell on the camera, but I've actually made it pointier than it is. Try to figure out how I could stream or make a video where I show actually, some of the hop technique or some of my pressing techniques, and it's so much harder to like move around and record, and without someone actually recording me, I don't know how easy that's going to be. So I've tried to do a little bit with that, but yeah, it's just didn't come out great. And, I don't know if you can tell, but this already looks a lot wider than what it was. It really does look nice. I'm going to move over into the label here. This is one where this is about the only thing you can use here. You have to be real careful around these letters. You don't want to get in there and mess up the color. I remember the first time I cleaned a book, I think it was like an ASM 132 or something. Like it was like the second tarantula or maybe the first tarantula. I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified I was going to damage the book. And nowadays it's nothing for me to crack a $5,000 book out of a case and try and get it better. But man, when I first started, I thought this isn't going to work. This is too good to be true. There's no way this is going to look better. And like I said, the presentability, especially on the backs of these 60s books, man, they get so dirty. So we're just being real careful. Get around these letters. Don't want to take any of the ink off. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, the other thing, and I didn't talk about this initially, is the cotton rounds, man. Cotton is your best friend. He's like makeup cotton rounds. It's just like a little piece of cotton. Just go over the book. This is good for getting some of the dirt off on some of the areas where there's color. It's shocking how much when you flip this over. I see much on there now, but there is actually some dirt that got pulled up right in here. Again, you're not going to be able to see that, I don't think, on the camera, but I also have this sitting on a clear backer board, and that's just so I don't scratch it or cause any issues. You can use a clear backer board. You can use a standard backer board, but it's always good to have it on top of something that you can either clean or something you can dispose of, just because you'll get dirt down in the bottom underneath it, and then you press it on the book, you get it all dirty again, and that's kind of counterproductive. So yeah, a lot of white on this cover. Unfortunately on this book specifically, the color's got a lot of issues that I can't really do much about. There's a lot of color fade and a lot of wrinkles and stuff that have caused the color to break. And again, this is just for the PC. I'm not trying to flip this book or anything. All right, so I'm going to do something now. I'm going to take just a white backer board. This is a magazine backer board. I'm just going to slide under this cover, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work on this edge, and I don't want to just fall off the edge. And you can do it. It's shocking how much dirt gets accumulated right on the edge of this. So you can actually take a lot of dirt off of this. You got to be real careful on the edge, though, because that's the easiest spot to kind of catch it when you come back and tear it. So I'm just going to be nice and easy. I wish you could see like the amount of pressure. It's kind of hard to explain it, but like I said, you're not erasing like you would with a pencil. If you wrote your name and then tried to erase with a pencil, it's lighter than that. Definitely, you push too hard, you damage a book. I learned that the hard way when I first started doing this. I tore up, I didn't tear up, but I ripped a Superman 48 Golden Age book, and man, I was devastated. It was just too much pressure. I was pushing a little too hard. So we got all that. We can probably do a little more down here. This still looks like it's kind of dirty. Try different erasers too. Always use a white eraser. Don't use like a pink eraser or a colored eraser. You always want to use a white eraser. And I find different I get different results with different erasers. Even though this is white and this is white, sometimes this will clean better than this, or vice versa. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's like how I use it or the way I hold it, but definitely have seen varying amounts of dirt being removed depending on what I'm using. So I imagine you can hear that, but it's really a light brush on it. I'm not using too much pressure at all. I always want to be careful around the comic code. I don't usually clean inside the code just because it's such a small area. It's very not impactful, but it's such small thin ink. It's really easy to mess it up. And I just don't want to. I don't want to take a chance. It's not worth it to get that little bit of dirt out of that spot. Same thing here with these red letters. You gotta be careful. Don't get down into the lettering. If you do, make sure you're using the smaller eraser. And then on the edge, it's really good to just kind of pull towards the edge. If you push up this way and push it, you got a higher chance of like tearing something or causing some damage. So it's always good to kind of go that way. Pushing down, pulling, lifting, pushing, pulling, lifting. This book's pretty solid, so I'm not too concerned about damaging it, just because it's really well intact. Sometimes you get some Golden Age books, the paper's a little more brittle. Those edges, man, you got to be real careful. So it looks like there's a fingerprint or something here. I can actually feel some kind of grime or grit right there. I don't see it, but I can feel it when I erase over it. You can it's like catching more than it should. So again, also something to be mindful of when you're doing this. If you feel something like that, don't push too much because that could be a spot where your eraser grabs and could tear the book. We'll use the thin one to get between the letters here. Grab our brush, clean it off really good. The front of this isn't that dirty. And this book overall wasn't too bad, but some of these books, man, you flip them over and you look at the back, and it looks like that somebody laid them in a pile of dirt. And I never noticed that until I heard about cleaning. I'd seen books and I looked at them lots of times. I've never noticed how dirty the backs of them got. So we're gonna do something a little unique. I put the board in here. I'm actually gonna pull it out, and I'll show you at the edge. I'm gonna pull it out just a little bit while I work on the spine. I don't want it right up against there when I'm working on the spine because it'll create a crease right on the edge. So I'll pull it away. And then once I get in a little bit, I'll push it back out. But you can see, I'm hoping you can see this dirt spot right here. Focus isn't great, but there's a little spot of dirt right on my thumb. So you should be able to see like how well this works when we get done here. Just from a little bit of light rubbing back and forth. And again, it's focus is a little off, but it's gone. It's completely gone now. So that's kind of where the benefit of dry cleaning really comes in, stuff like that. When you have a little dirt spot like that, it's really impressive how much better a comic book looks sometimes just after a clean. There's lots of micro bends and folds in these too that come out really well with the press that you don't notice until they're gone. So there's another really good dirt spot right here that we're getting rid of completely. And again, that board's still in a little bit. Yeah, it looks a lot better. So once that gets pressed, it'll actually have a nice roll at the edge. Will be have a nice roll to it, and it'll look worlds better. So we've kind of done the edge with the white here. I guess I can do a little bit more right here. Again, this is almost like embedded in here, so you're not going to get much benefit out of this little spot, but you should do every spot just so the color's consistent. And then we're going to go away nice and tight. And then we're pretty much done with the front. I don't really see much else that I can get. I might look at Quicksilver and his belt and the lightning bolts on him, just see if I can do anything with it. I don't know if there's much that can be benefited here. Let me see if I can get some better lighting over here too. All right. So, yeah, we're going to go work on Quicksilver a little bit. So, yeah, it's not really dirty. I don't really see much there, but again, just for consistency, I'm going to get it. You got to be real careful here, even with the blue. Don't erase on the blue. Just stay only on the white where there's no ink. You don't want to take a chance of erasing some color. And then we'll do his hair here too. Just, I don't really see any dirt there. My dogs are starting to go nuts. Neighbors must be out. So yeah, overall, looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how that looks right now. You can kind of see it's a pretty good looking copy. Again, it's 6.0, 6.55, somewhere in that range. And then we'll flip over to the back. So this back's actually not that dirty. There's some kind of foreign substance here on the bottom. I'm not sure what that is. It looks like maybe even a little stain there. Usually the spot that gets the dirtiest is along here. For whatever reason, it usually holds the most dirt. So the nice thing about a cover like this is you can really just use the big eraser all the way around. But what's really bad is you still need to get all this. And there's a lot in here to go through. And again, I'm not going to use the backing board until I start working on the middle and around the edges. I'm just going to do this the spine edge first, get all that gunk and junk and 50-year-old dirt and sweat and food and whatever else is on there off. It's crazy some of the stuff you find on these books. I flipped them over and found like dead bugs like smashed into it, which is pretty gross actually. I do have a little tool. I think it's for like, like clay modeling that I use to like scrape off little pieces. If I see something, it's this thing here. I don't know, it might be a dentist tool. You can just take it and kind of pick across something, like if there's a piece of gunk or a booger or something on there. Hopefully not like a real booger, but who knows. Again, these books were usually bought by kids, young kids usually, and who knows what they had. So there you can see a little bit of the dirt coming off on there. On a Golden Age book, sometimes it's almost it's really surprising how much crap comes off of it. Some of those books are, I don't know if it's the paper or they clean easier or what, but man, sometimes I've seen these come off and it's like you just rubbed it on like black gook. So it looks like there is some staining on here, and again, that might come off with a hop treatment, but I'm not going to be able to really show you that treatment. It's too hard to show up. But get the book, Captain Mike's book, comic book CPR and stain removal. Here's the stain removal book. It's a really good book. It's got some really good recommend against the bled technique. I think you don't get quite as much bang for your buck, but the hop is a great technique just to remove staining, water spotting, tide lines. It has all kinds of positives to it. I just think with the blue the bled technique, which is a blue light, the chance of getting a purple label is so much higher because you're whitening the book, and it's so easy to whiten it more than it actually would have been when it first came out. So something else you won't be able to see in this video is there are little spots of almost like a waxy smear on some books that you can't see, but this removes them. A lot of times on the CGC notes, if you send a book in, it has that. It'll have in the grading notes. It'll say like foreign substance. But when you look at it, you don't actually see it. It's that like smeary, I don't know, wax or something that's on there. I mean, it could be anything. It could be lotion. It could be, some kind of hand sanitizer. That there's so much stuff that people have on their hands. If you do watch the channel and you check out the videos, we are at our just hit our 2,500 subscriber giveaway. David Renfrew was the winner of that, and we're just pushing on to 3,000. So if you watch any of the videos, you leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that good jazz, you'll be entered to win a foil edition Incredible Hulk 181 graded in 9.8. Thanks to my buddy George who gave that to me. So I didn't get right on the edge here because I didn't have my board in. I got kind of up against the color, so we're going to go in and get up against the board now. Or get the board in there and really get the edge. Again, we got to be careful. We got this tear that we found on the first one. We don't want to do too much around that just so we don't tear it and make it worse. And it looks like I'm just nonchalantly going over that tear and not paying attention. I'm actually being very careful. It just doesn't look like it. I mean, I've done this, I don't know, 1,000 times. So I kind of know how to be careful and not damage it. So I think that's basically it for this one. I'm not going to do too much in here. I just don't see much dirt. I don't see much bang for the buck. So I am going to take my absorbing pad that we showed you earlier and just lightly rub. And that's going to get all the little crumbs. I'm going to be real careful on the edge where the tear is. It's going to get all the little crumbs off that we spotted earlier or that we've erased off. And then any like leftover residue that maybe I didn't see or didn't clean. So I'm making sure to put my hand here to hold this down. And when I pull, I don't tear it. And I am using a good bit of pressure here. I mean, not like hard pressure, but I can feel the resistance. And this will pick up any little pieces of residue. They're pretty nice. I think they're used for like artists and stuff. So then we'll do that on the front as well. We'll just kind of lightly go across it. You can almost hear it rubbing. We'll just make sure we don't miss anything, and yeah, it's pretty much done. So, like I said, this is probably a 5.5 or a 6. It's going to go in the press. It's not going to go to CGC or anything. But yeah, good looking book. I think the next book up we're going to do is 80-page giant #1, Superman Annual 1. So this book's a square bound, and square bounds create a whole different level of challenges, not just for cleaning, but pressing too, because they're glued. The spines are glued, and it's really easy to melt. melt that glue when you're pressing it. So you got to be a lot more careful. And then you don't want to smash the spine. You got to be careful not to smash it. But you can see this book's real dirty. This book's going to get a lot out of this. There's a ton of dirt in here. And we're just going to go through it. We're going to take our cotton swab first, go through, just rub over it, see what kind of dirt we can get off. I don't think there's any little mini tears in this that I have to worry about, but I will check it once we do this. And the amount of dirt it's just insane how much dirt's in there. I know you can't see it, but it's insane. So I had to check my phone. My wife's texting me. She's excited to be having Mexican food for dinner. And I will be having frozen meal. So there you go. You can see that all that dirt that we picked up quite a bit. Yeah, it's a really dirty book, so I think we're getting a lot of good results with the eraser. Yeah, you can see on the back. I mean, this thing's just trashed as far as dirt and grime. So you'll really be able to see the difference here when we start doing the erasing and dry cleaning it, how much it's going to impact the look of this book. And I can feel by doing this, there's some kind of grime gunk right in here. So that'll be, I'll show you another technique I use that I can use for that with some absorbing putty stuff. We'll go ahead and flip back over. Start cleaning this dirty thing up. So I'm going to again clean my eraser off, just rub it on the pad here. Get all the crap off the end of there. And again, I don't know, like I said, I don't know how well this shows, but there's so much dirt right here. I'll just show you how well this works just by going over this spot a little bit. And you'll see how much cleaner it's going to get. This book will probably get a hop just because there's a lot of staining on the back. Probably the back. I don't know if I'll hop the front. But you can already see like all that black crap on the eraser came off that book. Yeah, so this is a good cleaning candidate. It's not a high grade. It's probably a 4.5, 4.0. It's again not probably not a CGC book, but one that I can make look a lot better than it does now. So might as well do that. And this is, it's relaxing. I just kind of zone out and clean away. Brain kind of shuts down. Yeah, it's already looking a lot better. And you can see all that crap that's come off of the book. All that darkness that you see on the eraser was on this book, and now it's on the eraser. So clean that all off. Now it's all gone. We'll take the little eraser and get up here around his hand. Good old what if Superman turned to crime. Oh, somebody's across the street. My dogs are yelling. It's funny, they bark when someone's across the street, but if someone walked into my house right now and started stealing my comic books, they'd run and hide. The one would just try and get a treat or try and get pet. So it looks like there's a little bit of color fade around his hand. That's just part of the printing process. But I want to be real careful there not to kind of spread that out or rub it down anymore to make it look any worse. You got to be real careful here, too, this little tiny gap around his head. I definitely don't want to erase Superman's head. I can't believe I never cleaned this book before after seeing how dirty it is. Yeah, it's so much better. This thing's going to look good. I mean, it's not going to get rid of all these, there's a ton of spine breaks and all that. That's I can't do anything about color breaking spine ticks or how the edge or the spine's all shredded here and the top's wore down. But I can make it look a lot better and present a lot nicer. And there's nothing wrong with that. Plus, over time, this dirt is not good for the paper. You don't know what's in that dirt. It could be something that's slowly breaking down the paper over time. And maybe 15 or 20 years from now, that this book will be a lot worse just because it stayed dirty. I don't know. I'm not a chemist. I could be completely wrong, and it could be nothing. But in my mind, that seems feasible. So I do want to clean inside this box here, just because there's a lot of dirt in there. But this is a tough area, so you want to be real careful. Like I said on the last book, you want to be real careful not to run the eraser over any of the letters, which is why this eraser is so good for stuff like this. You can't use that big eraser. There's no way to get around the letters. You can see all the gunk building up on the eraser there too. So I'll clean that off a little bit. Even inside the D there, I'm like holding it in one spot and just wobbling it back and forth. Just to get that, there was a little bit of dirt in there. I'm not going to try and get inside the E. But definitely between the words, you can get in there. There's a little bit between the A and the N. I'll try and just lightly rub. But it gets so small, it's almost impossible getting some of these smaller spots. So what I am going to do when I get done with this area, I'm going to go back over it with the cotton swabs. Sometimes it'll help. The little pieces of eraser that have fallen off, you have an opportunity to maybe remove some of that with that. So I'll just go over and just rub over it. I'm putting a pretty good amount of pressure down. There'll probably be some black on this because it is probably going to pull up a little bit of the ink. But yeah, no, that's mostly just dirt that came off there. So again, the spine on this is much different than the spine on a normal comic book. These square bounds they're just completely different animals when it comes to clean. You got to be careful too on like this doesn't have it, but some of these, yeah, this does actually. So the staples, you got to be real careful where the staples are. If you rub too hard in an area where there's a staple, you could actually break through the paper. Those staples are actually set in really nicely, so I'm not gonna have to worry about that. They're actually even dead on with the paper. I wish there was a way to do this type of technique over the colors because this book is dirty everywhere. This yellow is super dirty, but not much I can do for it other than just this. I can do that, use the sponge and kind of rub, but it doesn't. It's not going to get it all off. It's just too much dirt. But you'll see that. See, there's a little bit of dirt it picked up there. And we'll get back inside of here. The back of this book's going to be a bear. There's the back of this book's so dirty. Well, it's going to take some time to get that. So yeah, it's already looking a ton better. This is a lot of white area. Picks up a lot of dirt. The thing that sucks is the black is trash too. So I can't get much on that. Really nothing I can do there. You can see a fingerprint right there's a fingerprint right there that's actually cleaned up really well. But the oils, this paper, kids would read this. You'd think their hands were just constantly dipped in grease the way some of these looks. But even just a little bit of oil from your hands, if you touch this paper and then let it sit for 30 years or 40 years, it's just going to absorb into the paper and leave that fingerprint ring. So, I think it's a pretty common misperception that these kids were just constantly dirty as hell, but that's not really the case. It's just the way that your body's oils absorb into it. So this is looking a lot better around Superman here. There's a lot of dirt here that I can't really do anything about, which sucks. But again, I take what I can get, clean what I can clean. And I don't think there's much else I can do. It's a little spot of something there. I got my little scraper tool, see if I can scrape that little thing off, whatever it is. Yeah, no, I think it's just embedded in the paper. There's nothing I can really do about that. So we're going to clean around if the kids had adopted Supergirl instead of Superman. A what if of DC Comics. Let's see what the wife has to say. She's very excited about her Mexican food, I bet. Yep. It's Easter and she forgot that, so maybe her restaurant that she was going to go to is closed. So you can see there's a bunch of like gunk starting to kind of wrap around the end of that. And that's just that dirt coming out of there. Just a ton of dirt. Yeah, I usually when I go to like local comic shops, I look for books in the 60s and just a lot of times they're if you look at a book for its potential and not exactly what it is, the price is probably undervalued because a lot of these books can really be cleaned up well. So if you look at a book and they've got a price like a 4.5, but there's a ton of cleaning you can do. Maybe it's a 5.5 or a 6, and you can get a really good value on it. I think a lot of people have really started to pick up the ability to do this. So you don't find that wildly different price on like major keys. I do hate when someone prices a comic book for its potential and not what it is. Especially if it's slab. You see a guy that's got a 4.0 slab, and they're like, "Oh, it's I'm selling it at a 6.0 price because it's never been pressed or cleaned." It's like, well, that doesn't mean it's going to get a 6.0, like, and I have to do the work to get it there. So it's a 4.0. I should be paying 4.0 price for it. That always frustrates me when someone does that. What it can be, because again, you have to do the work. You're the one that has to go in and clean it and make it look better. All right. So we're going to get this last little letter block up here, and then we'll flip over to the back and put on some elbow grease because that back's just absolutely trashed. So a lot of this dirt is actually almost embedded in it, so it's not getting much coming off there. I'm getting a little bit, but not much. Once it gets into the paper, it's hard to get out. Sometimes you can use some other techniques, like I said, the hop technique sometimes will help get out some embedded dirt, but not as much as surface dirt with this. The big thing is the glossier a book is, the easier it is to get the dirt off, but the easier it is to like erase the gloss too. So you have to be real careful when it's a lot of surface dirt and there's a whole bunch of gloss. So I'm going to do something here that I haven't done yet, just kind of show you guys. So this is absorbing. It's I don't know what it's like a clay. I don't actually know what it's used for other than cleaning comics. Hello, ramp. But you got to be careful with this too. It's just a pink. It's like a cleaning putty for cleaning I think, like sketches and stuff up, almost like an eraser, but you can kind of just rub it and roll it over. And you can hear it tacking in. It's actually picking up dirt. But you got to be careful because you can see there it's already starting to deposit some on there. So you got to make sure you don't rub it into the paper. And the older the paper, the easier it is for it to just absorb in. So we're just going to lightly roll this across here. You can hear it. Like I said, you can hear it kind of tacking up. Why are you laughing at me, Ram? Is this funny? I'm trying to teach you how to clean a comic book. It's retired Superman here. He's going to look so much better when I'm done. He might go unretire now. He's going to be so clean. So again, you can kind of see a little bit of the stuff comes up there. You can also take it and make it like a log out of it and just be careful if you do this. You don't want to push very hard. I'm just going to roll across the top of the paper. And then just making sure I didn't leave anywhere. So I'll go back over it with my sponge. And yeah, so there's the front. It's pretty much done. Like I said, that the book's beat up, so there's not much I can do about that. But it's a lot cleaner than it was. This was like extremely dirty before, and that's all gone now. So I'm gonna get up here. I'll hit up the code here a little bit just because it's dirty, and this is a big comic code. If you look compared to the last book we did, I'll show you the difference in the size of the comic code. So you can see how much bigger this one is. This one's easier to clean because it's so much bigger and there's so much space around the letters. This one I didn't clean because it's just too small. This one's big enough where I'm gonna go ahead and take out the dirt that's in there. Again, using the tiny eraser. Not sure what else this eraser would be used for. I guess artists might use it when they're doing sketches to kind of tighten up some lines. It is really a nice eraser for being precise. So yeah, I think that's about the best we're going to get on the front. So we'll flip it over. The back is just, like I said, it's trashed. I don't know how well the camera is, but even if the camera is crappy, you're going to be able to see how trash the back of this is. So we're going to grab a cotton round, go through and rub it down real good, see how much dirt we can get off just by rubbing some cotton across it. Put my absorbing up, take a drink. All right. So again, cotton round, and we're just going to rub. Just like you're working out a sore muscle on a buddy. I don't know if you should be massaging your buddy, so that's kind of weird. So I'm putting quite a bit of pressure. I'm using this hand to hold the page down so I don't tear the page. But I'm guessing, we're actually not getting that much dirt off from this. I would have thought it would have gotten more dirt off. So the eraser is definitely going to take off a lot. But a lot of this dirt's going to be embedded into the paper, so we're not going to be able to do too much with it. So this here, I might be able to get that spot off just with this. Again, you can't really erase over the yellow, so hopefully this will take off a lot of that. I don't know what that is, other than some nasty black stuff. But you can hear my table shaking, rubbing the hell out of it. It's not really doing too much, so yeah, you can see I'm getting some of the yellow off, so I don't want to do that anymore. So we'll go ahead and get the eraser back out and start working this edge. Again, this is, like I said, this is different than a standard comic. On the edge, you can be a little more rigid on this just because it's glued on, so it holds a lot better. But you're going to see a lot of crap coming up around this. What's going to be bad about this, and I can feel a staple right there. So, like we said before, you got to be careful around the staples so you don't tear the book where the two staples are here. What's bad about this is the difference from here to the yellow is going to be so much different from dirt levels because I can't really get there's no way to really easily remove the dirt from the yellow without removing the yellow too. So yeah, you can see I'm already getting a ton of crap off there. Flip your eraser up over every now and then too, until you clean it off again. Just because you don't, like I said, you don't want to keep that dirt on there. You'll push it right back into the paper. Yeah, I mean this is one of the dirtiest backs I've ever seen. If I'm being honest, look at that. I mean that's gross. That's all just dirt. So we'll rub it on Storm Shadow here and get it all off there. Take our brush and get all the crap off there. Keep on keeping on. Yeah, I mean there's so much of this dirt is just like embedded into this thing. Not much I can really do about that. It's a lot of it's coming up. I hope you can see that in the camera that a lot of the dirt is coming up. It's just so dirty. Like there's some of it I'm not going to be able to do too much with. You can see there too. This edge is the edge is missing on this. See there where it's torn off there. So you got to be careful there too. You don't want to pull that up and rip it. It'll rip really easily right there if you use too much pressure. Yeah, man, that's a ton of dirt. Shameful whoever owned this book before me letting their book get that dirty. I'm even having a hard time getting off the eraser. It's so much dirt. So that's pretty good. We'll just get back into it. Like I said, this is one of the dirtiest books I've ever cleaned. It's not a high grade, It's looking at it. It's probably even lower than a 4. It's probably like a 3.5. Got a lot of spine damage. The front's pretty trashed as far as wrinkles. It was not a loved book like all of mine are. So you can see we're having a lot of positive impact. It's dirt here, and then it kind of goes away. It's nice. It's cleaner. I wouldn't necessarily call it clean, but it's cleaner. So we'll go over here to the front, and I can't. Like I said, I can't do anything about that big spot there on the yellow, but I can work a little bit on this spot. So just to show you kind of how well this technique works, because this will all come up for the most part. Keep your finger right on the edge. Hold that edge down so you don't, tear it up. And yeah, you're just gonna give it a little bit of pressure, but not too much. Like I said, the worst thing in the world is doing this and catching something and you hear that, and you realize you just damaged the book. I mean, this book, it wouldn't hurt the grade at all if I caused a little tear, but I still don't want to. Whole reason for doing this is to make this comic book as good as it can be and hopefully keep it that way for the rest of the life of this, and whoever the next owner is after I'm long gone, have a good piece of history. This isn't like a huge key, but You know, it's first Superman annual. It's not a bad key, right? It's just not a high value, super high value book, especially in this condition. So we're around that tear. Like I said, you want to be real careful when you start working around these tears. It is so easy to make that tear worse or rip a piece off completely. There's no reason to rush. It's not a race. You're trying to take your time, be easy and gentle on this. Take good care of it. But I am having pretty good progress here, pretty good results from this. It just sucks because you can see how different the color or the dirt levels are between the white and the yellow. And, if I started erasing on that yellow, the dirt would come up, but so would the yellow. And I don't want to do that. I'd rather have dirty yellow than no yellow. Sometimes it comes off a little bit with a hop. I don't, like I said, I don't think this book is a high grade, but it might get a hop just because it'll help with this staining right here a lot. And definitely, if you're into cleaning comic books, man, check out the hop. It's one of the best things that have come out. I showed the book before, comic book stain removal and whitening. It's a great book. It's got tons of examples of different types of stains and what they look like on a comic book. And great techniques. Just be careful if you do the bled technique. It's very easy to oversaturate it with light and make it too lighter than it should be. It's fantastic for like water spots and tide lines. So if you get a book that's got water spots and tide lines, man, that's a game changer. Really starting to see some impact now on the white. Yeah, it's so embedded in the eraser, like my absorbing pad isn't actually taking it off, so I got to use this rougher pad here underneath there. So Storm Shadow's getting kind of dirty. Maybe I should start using Doc Ock. I've seen people too where they're like, you only do it this way or you only do it that way. Like I'm a circle guy. I like making little circles. I feel like circles are the most impactful. I could be completely wrong on that. Maybe that it's a higher risk, but I like circles. Unless I'm on an edge, then I'm straight lining it. So when we get to the corner again, you got to be real careful with the corners. It's easy if you come down and catch that and come back up with it and bring the paper up, tear it. So always when you get to a corner, just like push off and then be done and kind of come back. So if I start doing that back and forth motion, it's too easy to grab it and tear it. So just, until you get up close, hold it down really tight with your finger, with your other hand. And then when you get to the edge, just one direction and up. Not the band one direction, but the eraser one direction. I know I'm not a One Direction fan. I couldn't tell you a single song they sing. I know that one of them just died, and that's about it. So we'll start up on the top here. Man, I doubt this is coming through as good as it is here in person with me, but this is the dirtiest comic book ever. There's so much dirt on here. So it looks like there's some lines here that you can't see them really well, but there may be like a little mini micro tear in there. So I want to be real careful around that. Again, you can feel it. There's something going on there, like the paper's been creased. So I want to be careful not to actually rip it apart. So I'm going to use a little less pressure. I'm not using much pressure anyways, but I'm just going to use a little less. And I'm actually putting my backing board underneath here too, just to give me some more support underneath it. brush her off. I stole this from my kid. I hope she's not upset, but I've never seen her use it, so if she's mad. I'll just have to get her a new one. But I've had it for a few months and she's not noticed that it's gone. So yeah, that's much better. It's looking so much better. Let's see, a ton of dirt coming off there. Yeah, look at that. Man, that's just gross. Who knows what all's in that dirt? I'd love to get a microscope and do like a microscope of all the different stuff inside the dirt that's on this, because this book came out in, I want to say like 64. So it's a 60-year-old paper, 60-year-old plus paper. Who knows what all kind of gunk and dirt's in there? Could have asbestos in it for all I know. Hope not. I don't want to get sick. I've done this a lot though. I've never had any kind of asbestos poisoning. Yeah, yeah. I don't know about Colombian snow. I don't know if kids had that in the 60s, especially like 12, 13-year-old kids that would be reading this. And you never know. I mean, they could have used this at a table at a party in college and lined some up on it. Especially in the 60s, man. So same thing with this corner. You can see that corner's got some damage to it. So I want to be real careful not to tear that edge. And I got to remember too, there's a staple right in here. I want to be real careful when I get down here, right in this area here, not to dent the paper and tear it on the staple. That's very easily done on a square bound book. So yeah, look at that. I mean, that's so much dirt. Go over here and rub it off on the X-Men. There we go. So I've only really been using this eraser here just because it's such a wide area. I don't need to go to any of the smaller ones. I'm being real careful when I get up against that yellow. Or yellow, as some of you might call it. I guess yellow isn't the correct English way to say it, but that's how I say it, yellow. So we're back to where we started now. This is where that big dirt spot was for the edge. We started over here. We came around. We'll do the bottom next. And this is, it's a good bit of work doing this, but it's like the potential gains on your comics, on the value of your comics, on how well they're preserved. It's worth it. And like, I got nothing going on today. No one's here. There's no good video games to play right now, so might as well clean some comic books. It's Easter, so everything's closed. So working through this middle, there's definitely that's stain right there. Hey, Sanctuary, welcome to the stream. I'm cleaning a Superman Annual 1 80-page giant. So there's definitely a stain right here that hop would get rid of. But again, I don't know if I want to hop this book or not. It just is, it's not really enough value or it's not going to have that much impact to really do it. I may, if I have some downtime on the press and just want to make it look better, but I just don't. It's just not worth the gain. And square bounds are so much harder to do everything with, so you got to be a lot more careful. So yeah, a lot of dirt here in the middle. One of the things too, you can't it's hard to tell here, but this is like the blue white like dotted coloring. You don't want to erase on that either. If it's only white, only solid white backgrounds is the only area you're going to do this on. There's just too much risk to remove the ink anywhere else. So you can see on the H here on watch, there's so much like dirt and grime around that I don't know. It's going to be so hard to clean around that because inside the H is such a small, tight area. So we'll see if we can't get some of it off with the cotton. I mean, I can't. So yeah, it's really like that was something. Like they set that in something. I don't know if it, set it in some food or some grease or something, but that was sat down on something or something got on there. Mud, who knows? Yeah, I mean it looks a little better. Again, that would really get a lot better with a hop. It's undecided whether or not I want to hop this. So I'm pretty much almost done with what I can do for this book. There's not a whole lot left. There's not a lot of white on the back. It's basically just the border. And then couple little tiny spots. But like I can't go inside these blurbs. That's just way too tight to try and get inside these blurbs where the words are and without erasing the words. And this stuff's all embedded in the paper, so it's not coming out. Yeah, I think that's going to call that one. I think. So I do have one other book I'm going to work on. It is an X-Men number 7. I think it's a 7. The second appearance of the Blob. And again, it's not it's a mid-grade, probably a 4-5-ish book. We'll take a look at that. I'll clean it up a little bit more later, go over it with the sponge and just make sure all the grit's off. But there's just a lot of staining in the back that I can't do too much with. So yeah, we're gonna pull this this X-Men 7 out. I think this book I'll probably send off and CGC it. It's going to be like a 4-5-ish. But I want to make it as good as possible when I send it. So I'm going to clean it. I'm definitely going to do a bled on this. Some light staining in a few spots, but it's got a lot of dirt. Inside's a little bit tannish. Looks like it's intact. Little piece of junk there. So again, flip through, make sure there's no coupons missing. Make sure it's got all its pages. Maybe there's a nice sketch from Jack Kirby inside here that he did at a convention. That'd be a nice find, but very unlikely. I see an ad for buying a monkey. You can buy a monkey through the mail in the 60s somehow. Still don't know how that worked, but I always think that's cool. It's like $12.99. I think that's a lot of money in the 60s, but that you could buy a monkey for $12.99 in the mail just seems pretty crazy to me. I don't know what kind of monkey it was or what. So you can see here at the bottom, there's a piece missing down here. So there's no white around here that I'm going to be cleaning, so I'm not too concerned about that. But I am going to go over it with a cotton round, so I want to be a little careful when I'm done there. And then we'll do the same thing we do. We grab a cotton round and rub over it and see if we can't get any all of the light surface dirt off of here. Something on these books, whether or not it'll come off with a cotton round or not, it just depends on how old the dirt is, how this book was stored, where it was at, what the humidity in the space it was stored is. All those things have an impact on it. So we're just doing a light rub to see if we can get any surface dirt off. Yeah, it looks like we got some off there. You can see that darkness. That's all just dirt that's just sitting on the cover. I think this book will actually brighten up a lot with a hop. Again, it's not a high grade. It's looking at it, it might even be like a 4.0. It's got a lot of creases. This actually might hurt it more. This piece missing on the bottom, that might knock it down into the 5 range. With all the other defects, there's a tear up here in the corner. You can see it's got some spine ticks, but you can also see all those little ripples that you see in here and all the dents and crease. Those will all go away. Those will all go away with a press. So that'll be very helpful for this book. So the areas that we're going to work on this book, we can work on Iceman, just the white areas of Iceman, all of this background here, all the white background. There's some white area in his ice trail here. There's a tiny bit in Quicksilver's hair, and like the lettering here and the corner box. So those are that we can kind of work on. Beyond that, there's, like I said, you can't go over the color, so there's not much you can do there. So I'm just going to start down here with Quicksilver's hair. And it's pretty thin little area, so I'm not going to have a lot of impact in this area. But I do want to make sure I go through it just to pick up any lighter dirt that might be in there. And it's a little bit yellowed, so again, a hop will help with that yellowing too when you do a hop technique on it. So we'll get a little bit around Cyclops' blast here. There's a white, the center, that's white. I'm not going to mess with these letters at the bottom. They're just, they're too small and there's not really much dirt in them. I could maybe do the evil part, but the also co-featuring you-know-who's. That's not something that's really easy to clean. Is it any better, Ramp? Yeah, I think it's when I pull things up to the camera, it auto focuses and then focuses back. Or when my hand's in here, it tries to focus on my hand rather than the book. First time though, learning pains. So, like I said, we can go through around here on his ice, whatever you call this thing, his ice path that he's made. This is really yellow. It's hard to tell, I'm sure, in the camera, but you can see compare and contrast with the white backboard. It was never this white. You can see how much darker it is than the white of the board. But there is a lot of little spots in here. I'm just being real careful. I don't want to go over any of the blue or any of the black lines. We'll dust her off, make sure we get everything off. So I'm going to kind of turn it to get to the middle just to help with the glare a little bit. And I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. So I'm going to get the bigger area here in the middle with the big eraser. I'm right up on the edge of the black outline of the blob here. And you can see all those little crumbs that are like falling around it. Those are all dirt, like little pieces of erased dirt, along with some of the eraser shreds. And I am being very careful around her hand just to make sure not to erase a finger. We don't want her to be a 4-fingered Marvel girl. So it's definitely cleaning up nicely. We'll get up here in these little triangles. Again, super careful around the big black lines, just because with these bigger, thicker lines, if you smudge them, if you erase any at all, it gets like it looks blurry where you touch it at, and then it just it doesn't look appealing, when you do it. It's not like they're going to ding you on this. If this was like a 9.8 candidate book, they would absolutely ding you. But on this book, it's not going to get a ding. I just don't want it to look. I don't want to see it. I don't want it to be there, because this is part of my PC. This is a book that is part of my run of the X-Men. So I want it to look as good as possible until I can get a better copy. So again, this is the greatest racer ever. It's such a good eraser for this type of stuff. I can make it come out more if I need. I don't know why I need that kind of flexibility, but I can. But yeah, it's definitely having an impact. It's working. You can see all the grime and grit on there. I'll move these lights a little bit and see if that'll help any with the clarity of the camera too. I know it's getting a glare right in the middle. Again, this is my first live stream, so if you are here, I appreciate you coming in. I do have definitely some learning curve here on how to get this all to work. I usually just make videos and post them. And yeah, I definitely I've done a lot of work, Danny, getting my technique down and trying to learn how to do this, and I've had some good bumps, for sure. But it's more about just making the comic book look as good as it can, and that's my goal. X-Men. If you watch my channel, I own every issue 1 to 544, and I want them to be the best they possibly can be. So I'm going to take the time and clean them and press them and hop them and do what I can to make them look as good as they can. So, all right, I think I got the lights a little bit better. Hopefully, they're actually getting kind of warm. I get how like newscasters feel. They got all those lights on them. It's starting to get warm around me. So you can see there again. Hopefully, you can see the difference in the color when it starts to pull off that dirt. I wish this book didn't have that piece missing on the bottom. That would definitely help with the grade a lot. And like I said at the beginning, if you are watching most of the stuff I'm using, if you're trying to find any of it, there's links to most of it in the description if you want to buy anything of the stuff I'm using. It does help. Very minimal does help if you buy that through those links. It helps me get more comics, clean them, and more content for a lot of time into this. So every little bit helps. And I also am very like, this thing's amazing. Like, don't buy some crappy knockoff. Buy this one. Even if you don't buy it through my link, buy this one. This is the best eraser there is for this stuff. Don't buy something you think might work. Buy what does work. At the end of the day, a white eraser is a white eraser. And then like this style of stuff and this type of stuff, they're all the same. But that micro eraser, man, that thing's fantastic. So give her a dusting. Any gaming today, Ramp? And you just hanging out watching me. My stomach said I need to eat. I heard that. Both? You're watching me and gaming? Good deal. Well, don't die because you're watching me and get shot by someone. I would feel bad. So I'm going to take the sponge and go back over it again. I can feel some grit. Um, so I'm going to just kind of lightly go across this and get some of that grit off there. I think most of it's just eraser grit for me erasing, but the brush isn't getting it off, and my hand wiping it isn't getting it off. So this will. And again, these are fantastic too. These absorbing pads. Definitely look into getting one of those if you're going to start cleaning books. So we're going to do a little bit about around the number box here. And then we'll do a little bit around the corner box, and then we'll check out the back. It's squeaking. I'm not going to mess with the code. You can see here there's a piece just barely hanging on up here in the corner. I definitely don't want to mess with that and tear that piece off. Again, on a book this grade, it's going to have nominal to no impact, but I don't want to take anything away from it. So I don't know there's much I can do with the corner box. I might. And we talked about this. I'm going to pull this board back a little bit just to get right on the edge. There's a little dirt right on the edge, but the edge is the hardest spot to clean. Just because the angle down, and yeah, that's almost like embedded, so I don't think I'm going to be able to do much with that. This is actually cleaning up a little better up here. A lot of little dents and dings in this, though. Like I said, those will definitely come out with a press. It's not going to really improve the grade any. It's just going to make it look better. So there's a little piece of grit right there, but I'm not going to be able to get it out. So I'm just going to leave it. I don't want to damage the book. So we'll flip it over. The back on this, actually, for a back of a comic, is pretty clean. I don't know that I'm going to do too much. I might kind of spot clean a couple areas that look bad, but it's kind of brittle on the corners and around the staples, so I want to be real careful there. It's not worth trying to get a tiny bit of dirt out and tearing the book up. So I can see right here, there's some dirt right here I'm going to try and get rid of. Yeah, and that's just like a magic eraser, man. It's just disappearing. So that's good. A little bit more over here. Overall, though, it's not too bad. There's some in here. I should be able to get rid of most of that. And some guys will tell you like, "Oh, you gotta clean everything." It's like you don't. If it's not dirty and there's no benefit, why would you rub an eraser over it? It's 60-year-old paper. If I don't have to erase on it, I'm not going to erase on it. Even under a microscope, you're not gonna be able to see where you cleaned it with a spot that's just a spot clean like that. So something to this book, I'm not going to do something to this book. But I've seen these guys hit every square. Well, you can't go in between the words. There's no way to clean between the words and not damage the words, because it's just too small. So that's always going to be a little dirtier than the rest of it on the back of a book, always. You can see here there's a little bit of a shadow line along here. That sometimes can be lightened up a lot with a hop technique as well. There's a big scratch dent in here. Some of that will probably come out with a press. I don't know if how well you can see in the camera, but there's a big scratch right here. And it's almost like someone probably had a piece of paper on top of this and was writing on the paper, and it transferred through that paper into this paper. Sometimes you can actually make out words or a phone number or something like that somebody wrote on top of something on top of the book. It's crazy. If they only knew. They only knew. I mean, someone bought this book for 12 cents in 1964. And had they left it in the same condition it was in 1964, it'd be worth a couple $1,000s now. Maybe even more. So if you haven't seen it, you just joined in. The front of this book is an X-Men 7. You can't really tell from the back. But so this is 1964 X-Men, the second appearance of the Blob. Low grade copy, again, probably a 3.5 4 book. It's not like a banger. I'm not gonna retire on this book. I am gonna be real careful around the staple here though, because there's some tears on the staple. And like I said, there's not a whole lot to benefit from the back of this book. It's not that dirty. It's not nearly as dirty as the 80-page giant we did. That thing looked like it was dipped in mud. So this staple's really a lot of damage up here, so I want to be super careful around this staple. It's nice and easy. I think that's about it for this one, guys. I don't see too much else going on with this book that I can really improve on. We'll give it a light rub with the absorbing pad just to get any grit and grime that's still on there off. And this probably won't be a CGC book. I've struggled to get this book in a better grade. It's hard to find one that's in a grade that I tend to. I like to keep the low books, the under 10 books as high as possible, but I don't want like a bunch of 3.5s. I think the lowest book I have below 10, I think I got like a 4.0 maybe. Even my X-Men 1 is at least a 5.0. It's a CGC right now, but it's at least a 5.0. I think issue 3 I have is a 7.0. Like I don't want this graded. I want this in my collection, but hopefully I can find a higher grade of this that's priced right, that I can go and get, clean it up, make it look really good, and maybe get a good copy. So I think I'm going to wrap that up for today, guys. I'm getting hungry, and it's lunchtime. If you did pop in and hang out, I appreciate it. And I'll probably start doing this a little more often. I'm still learning how the live stream works. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I apologize you didn't see my pretty face, that we were looking at comic books all day, but I'd much rather look at the comics than my face anyway. So thanks for popping in. Thanks, Ramp. We'll see you guys next time I do this, and check out my videos. I got a giveaway going away for a X-Men or Incredible Hulk 181 foil. This book right here. Giveaway. All you do is watch the video, leave a comment, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.